When I started flying RC planes, one of the things I loved was being able to build and fly fixed-wing flying wings for so cheap. Even with an autopilot installed, the cost of a 4-foot flying wing rarely exceeded $150. Recently, the Parrot Disco, a basic flying wing with an autopilot and FPV goggles, was released to the public. Now, personally, knowing how cheap it costs to build a flying wing, I was really tempted to buy a Parrot Disco. But when I saw the market price, I realized that this flying wing was way over my budget. I figured, why not try and make a cheap version of the Parrot Disco using commonly available parts? To start with, the fuselage. The Disco fuselage looks oddly familiar to the X8 fuselage, which has been around for many years and has been used to make flying wings just like the Parrot Disco. The wingspan and dimensions are the exact same, and this only costs $179. Now to match it up with a right motor and battery. The Parrot Disco claims to have a flying time of 45 minutes with a 1280 kV motor and a 2700 mAh LiPo battery. Now this costs about $37. But what if you wanted a longer flight time? Most flying wings are so efficient that the amp discharge rarely goes over 10 amps. The Tesla lithium-ion battery has a max discharge of 10 amps, and has double the energy density of lithium polymer batteries. By replacing the Disco's LiPo battery with 3 lithium-ion cells, we can reduce the battery weight by 50 grams and increase the flight time to 90 minutes, all for the same cost. Now, for $216, we have a basic Parrot Disco mock-up that can already fly for twice as long as the $1,300 version. Let's get into some of the autopilot features. A standard FPV 5.8 GHz setup with a 1 to 2 mile range costs roughly $200. This gives you about the same range as a Parrot Disco. The Disco comes with a proprietary autopilot called the Parrot Chuck. However, all of the same features on the Parrot come with an Autopilot Mega and GPS unit. Additionally, all of the same sensors on the Disco can be attached to the Autopilot and relay information to the controller. All the sensors, autopilot, and GPS add up to $64. So, for just $480, you can build a replica of the Parrot Disco with a much longer flight time. Now you may be thinking about the software features of the Disco, such as Auto Land and Loiter. Most of these features are already incorporated into the Autopilot, and the ones that aren't can be easily created using the Linux firmware. In fact, new flight modes are constantly being added to the Autopilot database. In the most recent firmware update, we were given Avoid ADS-B. This is a new method that allows unmanned aircraft to avoid manned aircraft if they get too close. This comes just recently after the FAA added more restrictions to UAVs. For one thing, this makes operating an Autopilot plane much safer than a Parrot Disco. And this is a key factor you want to have, especially when you have young and inexperienced pilots flying these new types of planes. While experienced pilots may be able to see an oncoming plane in the distance, the younger pilots may not be able to notice it until it's too late. Safety measures like Avoid ADS-B keeps the inexperienced pilots out of trouble, while other features like Follow Me and Sport Mode can allow the experienced pilots to perform new tricks and maneuvers with their planes. In short, unlike the Parrot Turbo, the Autopilot is constantly being updated with new updates and features that are incredibly important for young pilots and experienced pilots alike. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Autopilot update contains some of the same features that the Parrot Disco has. So, is it really worth it to pay $1,300 for a flying wing that could be built for less than $500? Let's face it, nobody in this hobby deserves to pay $1,300 for an overpriced drone that could be built for much less. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.